Hello and welcome back to Body Purpose's 3-part video series dedicated to help you find your kind way to yoga. In our first video, we talked about embracing 3 key ideas. Your body is intelligent, your body is unique, and your body is grounding. When you recognize these 3 inherent qualities, you are more likely to trust and respect your body, and you are less likely to get hurt while practicing yoga. In today's video, we will be talking about the 3 poor habits we've adopted when we move, very likely unconsciously, and that we must unlearn because they are inefficient and potentially harmful, and that we must unlearn in order to practice yoga in a way that is safe, sustainable, and kind. You do not need a yoga mat to follow today's video, and you can do everything sitting on the chair. If you're sitting on the mat though, please grab a block or a pillow, and if you don't have any of those, you can grab a large towel that you can fold multiple times so that you can sit on a firm and elevated surface. So let's get started. Poor habit number 1, using our neck muscles to move our head, creating neck tension and potentially neck pain. Instead, we should initiate any head movement from the back of the head, slightly above the atlanto-occipital joint, which is where the top of the spine and the base of our skull meet. So how to find that sweet spot from which we initiate head movement in a safe and sustainable way? Well, if you place your fingers at the top of your ears, right there at the top, and you slide the fingers gently towards the back of your head, and this is where you find that sweet spot. So really, the movement should be initiated from this spot. Let's do a quick exercise so that you can practice. So in a seated position, you're going to bring your fingers at the top of your ears. All right, quite easy. And then you're going to slide them towards the back of your head, like I mentioned before, and then you can find that sweet spot that is where any head movement should be initiated in order to practice in a safe and sustainable way and not overwork neck muscles. Okay, so when you move from the neck, you're more likely to also engage your shoulders and create tension on in the shoulders as well. So instead, I'd like you to really think of that spot behind your head. If you want to think also of that spot between your eyebrows, or some people will call it the third eye, you can also think of that spot as being the opposite side of the third eye, or that point between the eyebrows. Okay? So very gently, we're going to move the head. So when you think about moving your head from that sweet spot from the back of your head, you're going to turn your head to the right, and then back to center, to the left, and one more time to the right, and to the left. Now, if we want to move our heads up and down, and this is where we can really crunch the back of our neck if we don't move from that sweet spot in the back of our head, and if we use our neck muscles instead, we can really overdo it. So from that spot, you're going to gently look up. So initiating the movement from that spot, looking down, and up, and down. So you may have a shorter range of motion, but it's okay. It's the point in completely crunching the neck to bring the eyes all the way to the back. There's no real benefit to that. Good. Now center, we're going to roll our head. So bring the right ear to the right shoulder, and then looking down, left ear to the left shoulder, looking up and circling the head in one direction. Right now we're going clockwise. Initiating the movement always from that spot behind the head. Remember, at the level of the top of the ears or the third eye, whatever reference works for you. Once again, limiting the range of motion if you have to. Remember, your body is unique, so based on its unique design, you may have a more or less big range of motion. All right, one more counterclockwise. And back to center. So that's for habit number 1, moving from the neck, and I can show you moving from the neck how I may overdo it, okay, versus from moving from that sweet spot behind your head. How the movement may be less exaggerated, but a lot more in line with how my body is supposed to move. Simple as that. Okay? Now, for habit number 2. For habit number 2 is moving the arms from the shoulders and upper back, rather than moving your arms from the armpits. This may sound weird, but we are not supposed to move our arms from the shoulders. We're creating a lot of tension. Actually, if I come onto the side, I can show you real quick. If I want to reach something and I use my shoulders, I tend to do that. So there's a lot of rounding of the upper body, a lot of overusing the muscle of the shoulders. When I move from the armpit, then suddenly I also use my whole body to reach. Okay? So let's do a quick exercise, a very basic, very simple, moving the arms from the armpit instead of moving the arms from the shoulders. So let's start with the right arm. You're going to focus on the armpit and then lift the arm forward from the armpit and then bringing it down. Good. Now the left arm, moving from the armpit, bringing it down. Both arms from the armpits, bringing the arms all the way up and bringing them down. Now I want to teach you an extra little trick, which is as you initiate the movement from the armpits and you move your arms up in the air, you can imagine that all your fingers are attached to some imaginary strings, like a little bit of puppet arm, and that someone is pulling those strings all the way up to the ceiling. Okay? Releasing the arms down. Now let's bring them to the side, moving from the armpits. Bringing them down. And forward, initiating from the armpit all the way up to the ceiling. Opening the arms out and bringing them down. Now let's do the reverse movement. Opening out to the side, always moving from the armpit. Imagining those strings, pulling your fingers all the way up to help you in the movement. This is not where the movement is initiated, but it's just a nice way to think about it that adds some ease into the movement of the arms. Okay, so that's for habit number 2. Moving the arms from the shoulders and upper back rather than from underneath, from the armpit for more freedom of movement and more ease, obviously. Okay, harmful habit number 3. We're going to stand up and I will tell you then. All right, harmful habit number 3. Using our lower back to bend. Okay, this is no good, my friends. We should initiate the movement instead from the sit bones, which are the 2 little bones on each side of your bottom. This is where we should initiate the movement, not the lower back. From the sit bones, and at the same time, releasing at the hip joints. So the hip joints are on each side of the pubic bone where the legs and the torso meet. And you can put your thumbs in there. Okay, you can just feel it. So as you initiate the movement from the sit bones, you release at the hip joints at the same time. And that's how we bend. So let me show you from profile. Initiating from the sit bones, releasing at the hip joints. Now I bend in a way that's sustainable. And I can go all the way down. Notice my knees are going to bend as well. You can allow the back of the knees to soften and the front of the ankles to soften as well. And bend. And keep releasing at the hip joints. Now, sending your feet into the ground, coming up. Now, when you sit, it's also important to think about this. Initiate the movement from the sit bones, releasing at the hip joints, and just sit down. All right? When we do squats, that's really important as well. Okay, releasing at the hip joints, back of the knee, front of the ankle. And we'll go into this in great details in video number 3, so don't worry. For now, I'd like you to more be conscious of those 3 poor habits so that when you watch video number 3, you understand it a lot better. You understand the process a lot better. And also when you move on the mat or in daily life, you think about those things, really moving from this high point in the back of the head, from the armpit, and then from the sit bones with the release. Okay, so that's a lot for today. So let me recap real quick. Poor habit number 1, using the neck muscles to move our head instead of initiating the movement from the back of the head at the level of the tip of your ears. Poor habit number 2, using your shoulders and upper back to move the arms instead of initiating the movement from your armpits. Poor habit number 3, using your lower back to bend instead of moving the torso from your sit bones and releasing at the hip joint sockets. This is it for step 2. Please download the PDF which recaps those 3 inefficient and potentially harmful habits. You can refer to that PDF as often as you want. In the next and last video, we will learn the 3-step process that will allow you to move and align with greater ease and natural strength for a kinder way to yoga. I will see you then.